In this video, I'm going to help you put together a faith-focused Dryleaf monk build, which I believe is the most versatile option within the Dryleaf Arts. We get good damage on both the sacred and flame art weapon affinities. We also have a pretty cool defensive option, which is introduced via a new cracked tier for your wondrous Physick. And then finally, we add a new ranged option to deal with annoying mobs that instantly reminded me of KRILLIN's Destructo disc in Dragon Ball. So we'll just call this build the Divine KRILLIN. First off, we'll be kicking off with our weapons, switching between the Dryleaf Arts and Dane's Footwork. You can honestly choose these based off of the animation you prefer, as the damage differences are truly negligible. We only start seeing slight changes when we take a look at our talismans. Looking at our talismans, we have a few setups that will help us deal with specific scenarios. First up, we have our default setup. This is what I use when generally exploring the world in Shadow of the Erdtree. We have the Dragon Crest Great Shield Talisman, which helps us enormously boost physical damage negation. Then we have the new Shattered Stone Talisman, which raises the potency of kicking and stomping skills, which speaks directly to the Dryleaf Arts. Followed by that, we have our Blue Dancer Charm, which raises attack power with our lower equipment load, as we are usually at a light load. And then finally, the Claw Talisman, which enhances our jump attacks, which we use very often with the Dryleaf Arts as well as Dane's Footwork. And then for our second setup, we have a more grounded combat style. Starting off with the Curved Sword Talisman, this enhances guard counters and works perfectly with the new setup we have in our wondrous Physick. Followed by the Curved Sword Talisman, we have the Godfrey Icon, which enhances our charged spells and skills, so works very well with our Palm Blast. Our Axe Talisman, enhancing the charge attacks. And then finally, the Blue Dancer Charm, which raises attack power with our lower equipment load. And then a final note here on the Shattered Stone Talisman, looking back at the segment where we looked at the general combo string for either the Dryleaf Arts or Dane's Footwork. This is where the difference comes in, as the Shattered Stone Talisman will only raise the potency of the kicks in those combos, meaning that this talisman has a greater effect when utilizing Dane's Footwork, specifically with the Dryleaf Whirlwind Ash of War. As mentioned, the damage is quite negligible, so don't feel like this is a make or break deal when using the Shattered Stone Talisman, as our jump attacks, which are purely kicks, are impacted by this talisman. Looking at our overall attributes, we are a level 150 Confessor, with our Vigor at 50, Mind at 21, Endurance at 20, Strength and Dexterity at 20, Intelligence at 9, our big stat here being Faith at 80, and Arcane at 9. This is all to scale with our affinities that we are placing on our weapons being Sacred and Flame Art. Here's a little damage showcase of the Sacred affinity against the Putrescent Knight, as well as the Flame Art affinity against the Erdtree avatar.
Big damage.
Looking at our wondrous Physick, we like to use two different mixes which match up nicely with our talisman setups. First off, we have our pure DPS mix, which includes the Thorny Cracked tier as well as the Holy Shrouding Cracked tier. This is very much a focus on that successive attack power. When letting loose with a light attack combo, we get around 11 hits in the full combo, so you can imagine this scales very nicely. The holy attacks being an 80 faith focused build, this obviously just speaks directly to our affinity. Looking at our second setup, we have the brand new Deflecting Hard tier being paired up with the Holy Shrouding Crack tier. This specifically speaks to our guard counter build. As you can see here, the hard tier gives us a temporary enhancement on our spontaneous guard. This will allow us to take some of the biggest attacks in the game, receiving no damage with our bare hands. Pretty much just a really cool aesthetic for the Dryleaf Monk. And finally, our last tool in the build, as well as the shout out to our friend KRILLIN, Miquella's multi-layered Ring of Light. This incantation will help us to deal with pesky, annoying mobs around the game, such as the bats in the Specimen Storehouse. As the damage on this incantation scales with faith, we do some pretty potent damage with this incantation. Alright my soldiers, well there it is. I hope you enjoyed this guide, and I truly hope that it does assist you in putting together your dream Dryleaf Arts combination. I truly have had so much fun playing with this new weapon. It has been my favorite playthrough so far, and hope you guys enjoy it just as much. If you have gotten this far in the video, please feel free to leave a like, subscribe, and drop a comment with some variations or different options you might have used for the Dryleaf Arts. I'd love to check those out.